Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the BoothCast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Dani El Alcalde, Soliz. He's here to join us. He's the coach for middle school and high school teams, and he was formerly ACS alumni. So, Dani, tell me, why did they call you El Alcalde in school?
El Alcalde. Well, the nickname came a couple of years after I graduated from high school, and it was during my college years where during school I had many friends from many schools, and in college I went to this tiny college. I had a bunch of friends there. A few of them came to La Paz to visit.
International.
And that's when a friend started joking, and he's like, "You're El Alcalde." And it just stuck with other people calling me El Alcalde.
And yeah, because I talked to Miss Caro, and she told me that when you were in high school, you just talk about El Alcalde. She also told me that you got a scholarship in football while you were in school.
Half a scholarship.
Half a scholarship. Where did you get it from?
Well, I went to school to a second division team at Francis Marion University, and what they did was they gave me a scholarship. Instead of paying out-of-state tuition, I paid in-state tuition. So it was pretty good, and it lasted for a year. A lot of people don't know that, well, during my time, the difficult part wasn't getting the scholarship, it was staying with the scholarship.
Oh, so it was something that had to be renewed every year.
Yes, exactly.
And how would you compare scholarship, athletics when you were in school to now?
I think it's more competitive, especially if you want to go to the U.S. to get a scholarship in sports, in soccer. It's more competitive because soccer is much more popular now than it was, I don't want to say how many years ago, but during my time in college.
And while you were at ACS, you were part of the ACS soccer varsity team, right?
Yes.
And how were all the experiences of the friendship games?
They were similar to the ones now. It was very, very tough, and it was very competitive. When I was in school, there were only 3 schools. There wasn't AISB. It was only us, Santa Cruz, and Cochabamba School.
Was it as difficult as it is for us now?
It was always very difficult. It was very challenging, but at the end, it was very rewarding. One of the funny anecdotes that I have is that one of my very best friends now was my worst enemy in school. He played for SCCS, and
that rivalry.
That rivalry was even bigger than it was than now. So we hated each other, but we met in college, and he was an hour away. He went to college to University of South Carolina, where I had 3 of my friends that went there, and we got to know each other, and we became really, really good friends.
It's great. Why do you think sports is so? Why do you think sports are so important to high school and students and just kids alike?
I think sports are just awesome because it basically it gives you the experience that life gives you. It makes you take decisions which you have to take at that time. You have to be spontaneous. You have to learn how to lose. You have to learn how to win. You have to keep on trying, and it's not how many times you win or lose. It's just keep on going and never losing the main focus, that is the love of the game.
You've recently become a coach at ACS, training the girls and soccer teams. How did you decide to become a coach?
Okay, well, so I graduated in 2000 from FMU.
Yeah.
I worked a couple of years in Miami in a cell phone company. Then I moved to Argentina, and I did a master's there, which I didn't finish, but
What did you master's in?
A master's in business administration. And a few years after that, I was working in La Paz in a meat industry company, and I worked there for about 12 years. But I heard a lot of times that sometimes life will test you. And one of my biggest tests was that I lost my father during 2012. And it made me refocus on what I loved to do. And I started thinking about what I really loved in my life. And one of the things that I've always loved is soccer. So I decided to take a year off. And that year became, this is my 5th year here, so training soccer. So.
And when you started out as an assistant coach?
Yes, I started out as an assistant coach, and I started coaching the little guys, 3 and 4 year olds, 6 and 7, which was tough, but it was fun, very rewarding.
You also got some training in Chile, right? Of coaching strategies and coaching techniques?
Yes, I was lucky enough to have a friend invite me to Universidad Católica de Chile to see from the under 5 divisions all the way to the professional division. And it was a 9-day training program, which was very intense. We started off at 7 in the morning. We finished around 9:15 at night. And it was...
So it was very intense.
Excellent. It was beautiful. It was excellent.
Would you recommend this for anyone?
Yes, I would, because it just opens your eyes as to how much we have a long way to improve, and we have a long way to make things better in soccer in Bolivia.
And as assistant coach, do you feel the same responsibility towards your team back then as you do now as head coach, or
Always. I was lucky enough to have at that time it was Frankie who was the coach, and I think Frankie taught me a lot of things, and I learned from a lot of other coaches that are friends of mine. The SAS coach Dani is a really good friend of mine, and I think I learned a lot from him.
Very tough too.
And I learned a lot from Milton, who was an excellent coach, who was a coach when I was in high school, the last year of high school. He coached me. He was assistant coach. he was in the physical part, so he made us run a lot. So,
still does.
Yes, still does.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very
And
lucky.
so what's like for you the most difficult part of coaching that some people may not know or realize?
The most difficult part of coaching is the emotional part.
The emotional?
Yes. You get attached to every kid, and the hardest part for me is when we have to do the cuts. Because I would love to take everybody to the games, but you just can't. And that's the hardest part for me, because there's so much talent, and everybody's trying their hardest, and
You just can't
you
take
just
everybody.
can't take everyone.
Yeah. And you have any advice for any students who maybe want to be a coach or want to get a scholarship in football, something that you've learned throughout the years that you can tell them?
Yes. Well, the first thing is not only for coaching or for sports, but the advice I give is to really, really do whatever you love to do. Because whenever you love to do the work you do, it's not work anymore. It's just having fun every day. And that's how I feel now. As a PE teacher and as a coach, I just have fun every day. And I'm lucky, I feel blessed that I have that chance to do
what you love.
To do what I love.
And that point in your life where you were where you were transporting meat. My uncle, he also did that part, did that. But he told me that a lot of it was very stressful because there were like deadlines for the meat and stuff like that. Do you think? Did you also find it stressful while you were doing it?
It was very stressful. Everything is stressful. That's one of the things that also taught me in my life and in my coaching experience. It was that you have to have strategies to beat your opponent.
Beat your opponent, that's something. And your passion for soccer, did it start anywhere? Did it start now? Did it start when you were little, or something that went on growing as you became older?
Well, it started when I was little. I used to play every time, and before we used to play in what we called los barrios, which were the streets. So we used to gather around with a bunch of friends that lived near me, and we used to go to La Placita, I always remember in Obrajes, right in front of a church, and we used to play in wherever we could. And it was awesome. It was incredible. So that's when I started learning.
Well, nowadays children are not really getting that experience because most kids are really in their technology and not going outside or playing any sports. So could you give any recommendation to parents that maybe are struggling with getting their kids to be outside or doing any type of exercise?
Well, the best recommendation I can give to these parents is that if you make the experience fun, and by what I mean by fun is you have, as a parent, you have to participate with the kids. You can't just be like, you guys got to get out and play this game, and you be on your cell phone checking your messages or talking to people, or you have to get into the game. You have to play it with them. You have to
Give the example.
You have to give the example.
So what you're saying, you have to be part of the process.
Exactly.
Or else they're not gonna get engaged in it.
Yes.
Was there any sport that I'm not sure for you, but they made me do swimming?
Yes.
I really hated it. Was there any sport for you that you got into, or that they made you get into that you did not enjoy at all?
I really loved sports throughout my whole life, but one thing that I did hate that they made me do was piano lessons.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't like that at all, but after a year, my mom decided to raise her hands and say, okay, you don't have to do piano lessons anymore.
How long did you do them before your mom decided?
Like 1 year.
1 year?
1 year.
That's a long time. That's a long time. I was talking with Miss Caro, and she also told me that you have ADHD, and I was wondering how is that? Did you ever have any problems doing sports or in schoolwork while you had this disability, or?
No, I don't see it as a disability. Before, there wasn't ADHD or ADD or anything of that, so I was just focused on what I liked to do, which was soccer. And I did struggle a little through school with my daily courses, let's say math, science, and all of that. But I think that if you can engage the students in other ways which are more creative, then you will be able to have the students focus on what you are teaching.
Interesting. So, and you were a goalie, right, with the team, and so did being a goalie did it where some people think of goalie as being people who are new to soccer think of goalie as being one of the easiest positions to play in sports, in soccer. Do you think that's true, or do you highly disagree?
I think that being a goalie is the craziest position in soccer, because what you have to do is just you have to save the ball, and you have to do it with your head, with your nose, with your eyes, with anything you have. You got to do it. So I know a bunch of friends that have been goalies, and a lot of professional players that are goalies, and they call them loco in different parts of the world. So I think being a goalie is you have to be a little crazy, and I consider myself a little crazy.
If you wouldn't play as a goalkeeper, what other position would you have considered playing?
If I wouldn't play as a goalkeeper, I think one of the best positions I'd play is defense. Yes, I like defense. I like playing defense because I think it's You get a lot of action, especially in competitive soccer. You get a lot of action, and it's always it's the second to last thing before the goalie. So I enjoy playing that position.
And as a coach, what type of gameplay do you like to play? Like, do you like to play more defensively or more balanced or more like attacking? What do you really like to do?
Well, I've never played defensively. What I like to do is I like to play a lot with, I like to create a lot of plays in the middle, and I like to attack a lot.
And when you were in soccer, while you were training soccer in high school, when you were in school, and now, do you think is there any differences that stuck out to you in the attitude of the students or the players or the coaches or the other teams?
Basically, when I was in school, the coaches were a lot more strict. But we had very good coaches. I'm lucky to have had an excellent group of coaches. And one of the best things that ever happened to me was that I was invited to play in a team, a youth team called the Tawichi. And I think that I gained much experience playing there.
In the last couple of years, 5 years, ACS has really lacked winning a lot of trophies during friendship games. What do you think this is due to? Is it due to the students or just bad luck, or is there something specific we need to improve?
It's nothing about luck. I think it's more about perseverance, and a lot of it has to do with believing that you can do it, believing that you can achieve it. So it's a lot of psychology has to do with it, I think.
And you have that same mindset when it comes to soccer in general. You think that a lot of teams, why they lose?
In any sport, I think that the way you think is one of the most important parts of any sport.
And besides ACS, do you watch any international soccer on TV or any national soccer?
I used to. Now I don't have the time to, but not really. But I do enjoy games. Well, with the technology today, I am able to record games, so I will not miss a game in the World Cup. That's something that I won't miss, and I won't miss tournaments like La Copa America. The Champions League are just hard to watch because they play
right in your work schedule.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, in the work schedule. But I try to record the games and see them afterwards, even if I know who won or the scores.
And while in your trying to play soccer and trying to do what you love, did like any teachers from the staff we know today help you in that journey? Miss Caro or Miss Andy, did they help you get to to do finally what you love?
Definitely. I think Milton was incredible. He was an awesome teacher and a mentor. And Miss Caro is the one that hired me to start training with 3 and 4 year olds and 7 and 9 year olds, and then gave me more work. So I'm thankful to Miss Caro as well.
And when she gave you that call, was there at that time, was there any hesitation? Was there any internal thought process that I don't know, maybe this is what I love, but maybe it just isn't for me, or it wasn't immediately you knew that this was what you were gonna do and you did it?
I immediately knew, because it wasn't something that happened from one day to another. I used to always go and watch different trainings all over La Paz. That was my thing.
Just for fun.
Just for fun. I'd love to just go watch how, I don't know, Mariscal Brown trained. So I would go to their field and watch them train. And Bolivar train, not the professional team, but the under 13, under 15, under 17 team. So I'd go and watch them train. And and get ideas from all over.
And you originally just did this for fun, or did Miss Carolina or was she already whispering in your ear that you might be?
No, I just did that for fun, and then it just happened that Miss Caro gave me the call.
It's a very fortunate turn of events.
Yes, I think so.
And have you ever considering going professional coaching? So coaching a professional soccer team that it's a semi-professional in the first division?
Yes. I do have. I hope I can get there one of these days. I'm gonna work hard to do it, but I think you have to have a bunch more of experience, a lot more of experience, and a lot of more training. So that's why I'm already focused in the next few years to go to places like Argentina, Spain, Brazil, and get
Learn.
more experience from there.
And I know that you've already mentioned that you're complete passion in soccer, but while you were growing up, was there anything else that like you were really passionate about, or that you really enjoyed doing? That I don't know, you might have taken a different path in soccer if events turned out differently.
I really enjoyed playing tennis as
Tennis.
well. I played tennis till I was about 12 or 13, and my dad was a big tennis fan and tennis player. He wanted me to play tennis, but it came a time when I had to decide if I was going to play soccer or tennis. And I broke his heart, and I went for soccer.
But in the end, I believe it was, in my opinion, was the right decision.
Yes, thank you very much.
In my opinion. And while you were training here at ACS while you were younger, did you train anywhere else but school?
Yes, I did. I trained in a soccer institution called, it's still on, it's ABB,
Uh-huh.
and I trained in school. Before training in school wasn't 2 days a week, it was 5 days a week.
Oh, so it's...
So I used to train
And what do you
twice a lot of times.
What do you think about this 2 days a week policy? Would you go back to 5 days a week, or do you think it suits us better 2 days a week?
I think that it gives you, like other sports also give you a better approach to whatever sport you want to play. I think basketball helps you a lot whenever you play soccer, or even track. Whenever you do track, it helps you in the physical part. But I think every sport gives you a better way, especially group sports. I think they help you become a more well-rounded athlete.
And so you believe that it's a mixture of all sports that really help the students mature as a player,
Exactly.
as a student in general.
Yes.
And what do you think of the policy that in school we just practice soccer or volleyball for one semester and then discontinue it for the second semester? Because a lot of people don't really agree with this, since they lose practice and the team really like slows down and just has to restart the next semester. What do you think about that?
Well, as a coach, I think it's very difficult because we start soccer and we have a tournament already on top of us, which is the Nissan Cup, and we have just a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 months to train before the friendship games, and then we're done. And it's very difficult to compete against other schools that are training all year round, right?
Yeah. That does reflect in the. I imagine that it does reflect in the games. These other teams, they're training all year round, while we are just training like half a semester, and we're trying to get the same result. And that's why I wanted to ask you, well, what do you think? What's the difference between the boys' team and the girls' team? That the girls' team has become so successful, getting to the finals almost 2 years in a row now, and the boys' team who have yet to reach that bar.
I think a lot has to do with there's no cutting corners in whatever you do. The more you train, the better you get. Between the girls and the boys, I think it's a lot of mental. What I was telling you about, a lot of mental, psychological. What you think you can reach whenever you're if you're down a goal or maybe a couple of goals, but you still believe that you can turn things around. And I think the girls have that mentality.
And do you think it's a major problem within the boys' team that at least I playing as a soccer player playing, I see that a lot of my teammates, when the other team scores a goal, they kind of like put their head down and not play as they were playing before. Do you think that's also a major problem in our soccer team?
I think it's a major problem because unconsciously what you're thinking is, and it happens to the Bolivian national team, is you can be playing amazing and then they score a goal against you. And what you start thinking unconsciously is, oh my God, it's going to happen again. We're going to play awesome and they're going to have 2 attacks and they're going to beat us. And I think it's the best thing to work on is that changing that mindset. Having people say, okay, we're going to change the results.
And how
we're
would you
gonna
go
work
about
harder.
changing that mindset? How would you, as a coach, what types of exercises or things you would do that you think would help change that mindset?
The best way to change that mindset is with experience. So it's bad to say that you have to play with harder teams, with bigger teams, with stronger teams, and that's the way you grow. And whenever you start beating those teams, if they're beating you and then you start beating them, then your mindset changes.
It's kind of the same tactic that I heard that Miltic used back then with the girls, right? That they would play against the La Paz women's team, and then they would start losing 12-0. Then they went down to 8, then to 4, and then they finally drawed against them, and then they started winning. And when they started winning, that's when they completely were able to dominate when it came to friendship games and other teams.
Yes, that's exactly what happened to Milton when he was training the girls.
And a lot of people say that since we are very little, like the ACS community is very small and we have very few players, do you think that severely affects the results compared to other schools that have a lot of more kids in each grade level? Do you think that makes a difference?
It does make a difference to a certain point because if you have more kids, then you have more to choose from. But I think that the big issue here is having each practice like it was your last practice, like giving it all, every practice that you have, and training during weekends, and really focusing on where to get better and what to do to get better. And I think it's more of that than the number situation, right?
And one more question before we wrap this up. What team are you, Barcelona or Real Madrid?
Well, none.
None? Well, that's your answer, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been BoothCast with Dani Soliz. Thank you.
Thank you.